Everything is fine here on Detention Block AA23, a Star Wars podcast. I'm Mike, joined by Dustin and Bogey, here to talk some Star Wars. There's some recent news releases that we'll kind of talk through today. But first, to get the business elements out of the way, hit that subscribe button, like, follow,
Smash
download.
that like button,
You
bros.
know it. Please do it. It goes a long way in getting
Mike will
our.
give every new subscriber the worst hand job they've ever received.
There's only one way to find out, really. So hit that
Oh
subscribe
man.
button.
Okay. We
Boy,
are
taking it to a level really quickly here.
well, you gotta get them, hooked, right? That's media 101.
Hook, line, and sinker, since you're all into the fishing right now.
I
I don't
I
have.
am. I love it. I got the boat out. I think I told you that, didn't I?
Yeah, you told me that.
Yeah.
Did
So
you get it or did Tom Selleck get it out?
yeah, Tom Selleck. Hey, no, Tom Selleck's had his fill.
You've had yours, Tom
Yeah,
Selleck.
it's November, right? It's time to get the mustache out.
Yeah. Hey, no shave November. So
Take
yeah,
take uh take people out for some mustache rides. You know what I'm saying?
DetBlock after hours right now, late night.
Yeah. Well, we're
Uh,
uncensored.
that is true. So it's your own fault if you're listening to us and you have problems with
Remember like
that.
the old Skinamax shows, that you'd like stumble on as a kid?
What was the channel that like before? Well, it wasn't before cable, but before like cable was more common, and it'd always be like static and like wavy, and people like being teenagers, you're trying to like tune into those channels.
I don't remember the channels, but I remember like, I think the name was Skinamax, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Cinemax.
Those were the days.
It's kind of funny that well, I don't know if Cinemax. It's not out. It didn't like shut down, but they're like late night like stopped probably because of like porn being so prevalent these days that no
Yeah.
one's watching like Cinemax after hours or HBO late night or anything.
Well,
I think
that's the
that's
funny
hilarious.
that's the funny thing, that thing, people you hear people say kids will never know. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
today's kids will never know you had to stay up till like 2 a.m. just to see a boob in the
Just this
hairiest bush
total
ever.
softcore stuff. That was their way of censoring it, man, right?
Oh God, I never thought about it like that. Do I want to think about it like that?
Anyways, our chat is live too, so come bring your thoughts, opinions, anything you want to talk
Yeah, I
about,
mean, talk to us about
even
your
if it's your
your
Cinemax experiences.
late night adventures as a teenager when you were, raised in the '90s and early 2000s.
We'll talk through it. The only thing we won't talk through right now is politics because we are done with that, and let's just move on for now. It's a hot topic, so avoid it. Yeah, so I just kind of want to dive into, as I mentioned earlier, some news bits. And the first one you probably heard about it because I think it's been out for a couple of days now, but not new to Star Wars and Lucasfilm announcing new films, but they're announcing three more, which are supposed to be episode 10, 11, and 12. And it sounds like it's supposed to be separate from the Ray movie that's been talked about and been in, I don't know if you would say in production, but has been announced. And it'll be a continuation of the sequel trilogy, essentially. And she will play maybe a prominent role, not a lead figure, but it sounds like a prominent role. It's supposed to take on some new cast and characters, but Ray will definitely still be a part of it. And we know the Ray movie, specifically the Ray movie, is about her building a new Jedi Order. So maybe this is to kind of follow that. Some students that have, you know, been trained within this new Jedi Order and their stories. So we'll see. But according to Hollywood Reporter, since the November 7th reveal that Simon Kinberg had signed on to develop and write and produce a new Star Wars trilogy for Lucasfilm and Disney, debate has focused on whether or not it would be a continuation of the so-called 9-film Skywalker saga, tying it to the legacy of Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, and the storylines first laid out by George Lucas in 1977. The reason for the debate is the new Hope for trilogy would feature Rey in some form and fashion. So kind of speaking to what I just mentioned too. So based off of that, what are some kind of initial thoughts you guys have?
Want to go
Go ahead,
first, Dustin?
Bogey.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah,
Go for it, Bogey.
I
alphabetically, you know.
I personally are not a fan. I think we discussed earlier, is like I know she adopted the name Skywalker, and can we just get away from the whole Skywalker? And there's plenty of other good content. I mean, the that you can explore. Now, granted, the TV shows have failed, uh, but majority of them. I mean, so good and bad, but
Yeah,
I don't know where would you go with her path because I think um did it say she was going to be like a Luke Skywalker trying to maybe potentially start like a whole new academy, or is she going to be like a Ob if she does try to portray like this new Obi-Wan and finds the new one, I'll be super pissed because there's only one Obi-Wan.
right.
You can't do what you can't redo and try to, and it's the creative thought process of like, can you come up with something new without trying to like remake it, but just with different characters? So I'm just overall not the biggest fan of it, and I think they're better off right now instead of trying to come up unless they have a solid trilogy where someone's going to do the whole thing, oversee it, like George Lucas, and see it from beginning to end. I know we talked about in one of the previous podcasts about what's his name, what did the first movie, and then it went to Ryan Johnson, and he kind of just shit the bed. So then he took over. So
Abrams, J.J. Abrams to
Yeah,
Ryan
JJ,
Johnson.
yep, JJ Abrams. It's like it should be the same person that does the whole thing and knows it. And before you even start a trilogy, know this is it's going to be a cash cow no matter what because it's got Star Wars on it. So don't
I don't know about that. I mean,
go ahead,
the
Dustin.
solo movie, even though we all think it's really good, it had a lot of backlash and wasn't exactly a cash cow for him. I mean, I'm sure it was profitable, right? But not, I think there's a different standard for Star Wars stuff.
Well, I will say with a solo film, and I know we've talked about this, or at least a while ago, that I think a lot of the lack of money was it was intentional from like viewers. They were kind of protesting Star Wars at the time and did not want to go into films and see it. The unfortunate part was like it was actually a pretty entertaining film. And I think a lot of people, once they actually did go see it, like, I mean, not in theaters, because again, they were protesting. So sometime down the road, when it releases to Disney Plus, people were finally getting around to watching it. And they're like, oh, it's not great, but it's pretty entertaining at least. So, but yeah, I mean, to your question, Bogey, there's no specific information about what the trilogy would be about. Ray would be a part of it. But yeah, we do know that the Ray movie that they have planned will be the building of the Jedi Order from her point of view, I guess, or her building of it. So
'Cause I feel like we've already seen that tragic story though with Luke.
yeah,
He tried,
in the sequel trilogy.
and then you see the sequel trilogy, how much that kind of just s the bed of just and Mark Hamill even reading the script like, wait, this is I don't know. I feel like in the Mandalorian acolytes or not acolytes, Mandalorian and one of the other spin-off shows where you see Luke trying to build the temple. Ahsoka, I think maybe I'm thinking of trying to
Yeah,
build this
those are Ahsoka.
temple. Yeah, trying to build his temple and like that looked like a lot of like promise of what he's trying to do. And then those movies that Ryan Johnson especially kind of turned Luke into this villain. I wasn't a fan of that.
Yeah.
Kind of
So
contradicts each other.
And I think that what you're thinking of is Book of Boba Fett, because I think in
But
that Ahsoka, because it's like
it basically was
Mandalorian
Mandalorian like season 1.5 or whatever.
2.5. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So just touching base on or expounding upon the discussion about, these films being cash cows.
Yeah.
And I hate this term because I think it's a little overused, but I think there's a lot of bad vibes with the sequel trilogy, right? I mean, people don't like it. And so if you're gonna try to piggyback off of it in some shape or form, I don't think it's gonna be met with a lot of positive feelings and people rushing to the box office to go see it. I know I wouldn't be that excited. And I think there's some cool stories they could tell within that, story frame, but I don't trust them to do it well.
Yeah.
But then again, I think that's just a deeper symptom of where Disney is right now in their ownership of Star Wars. They haven't been very good stewards, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And for simplicity's sake, let's say that half the this isn't true numbers. This is just for, like I said, simplicity's sake. Let's say half the Star Wars fans don't like the sequel trilogy. That's already half your fan base that's not really going to be interested in seeing the movie. And then, go from there. What is your high point? Probably not that high compared to it, especially compared to going into the sequel trilogy, because I feel like at that point, when Force Awakens released, you had all the Star Wars fans on board looking forward to what this could be. And then you lost quite a few along the way throughout the three movies. So are you going to lose more through this trilogy?
Another thing too is like, okay, they announced this stuff, but it's years and years away. I mean, you're talking 2027, probably at the earliest.
Earliest, probably, yeah.
It's pretty abstract in that sense. I mean, 3 years is a long time. I know, like when it finally comes, it feels like it wasn't that long. I mean, I remember waiting on like Alien Romulus. I was excited to see that film. It was, a year and a half in the making. Then it comes and you watch the film and you're like, oh yeah, so it's over with. So, and we felt that way with the Star Wars projects, the sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
So I just think because the movies are probably so far away, I don't know. Just I have this kind of like non-attachment to them at all.
Yeah. And I mean, to your point, like how many movie projects do they currently have and have they announced? And there's 9 of them. I mean, there's I've got it right here. Mandalorian and Grogu movie set for 2026. Star Wars New Jedi Order, if it happens, 2026. Star Wars Dawn of the Jedi, which I think is the Rey movie, 2027. And then they have
Dawn of the Jedi. I think Dawn of the Jedi is like an anthology about.
Oh wait, that's the one that's about the start of the Jedi, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I think you're right.
And then New Jedi Order is Rey's movie.
You're right. I got that mixed up. You're right. And then they've got the Lando movie.
I don't hear that much in my household, so it's good to hear.
Dustin, you're right all the time. Come to this. No. Come record with us. We'll make you feel better.
Yeah, thank you.
But then you've got a Lando movie. Who knows if that's happening? Untitled Dave Filoni movie. Untitled Taika Waititi movie. And then episode 10, 11, and 12. It's like, all right, do you really plan on making all these movies? Or are you just, throwing out feelers to see which gets received by fans?
Just throwing shit against the wall, which just seems weird for a company like Disney.
Seems like a terrible strategy.
Runs half the world. Another thing too, like, can we just please for a while get away from this timeline?
Yeah.
Well,
they tried to with the Acolyte, and look how well that went.
Yeah, but they fucked it up so bad.
Yeah.
There's so many.
But in their eyes, they didn't.
Really cool in that timeline.
In their eyes, they did great.
I mean, look, nowadays you see a lot of these movies coming out that are book adaptations. Just do the High Republic adaptation.
Yeah.
Obviously not the Acolyte version of it, but
right. I mean, go through the books. Just do the books. The books are great. Why can't you just do that? You have the storyboard to it. Just bring it to live action. I don't know. Just the thought.
I mean, another thing is, I think within the general zeitgeist of people consuming content now, there's darker tones to it that have become more popular. And so you could make a movie that has a very, dark side feel to it, that has a focus on the dark side.
I would love it. I don't know if they'll ever do that, but I would love it. I mean, I feel like I don't know, that's gold. How, I mean, I say, how could you mess that up? They could find a way easily to
They'll
mess it
find a
up,
way.
but they'll find a way. I don't know. It's
They'll
got,
what do we talk? Get the creative juices going, and
yeah.
we'll find a way.
Well, I just feel like also, I mean, you were talking about like rehashes of old movies, Bogey. I feel like that's all you really see these days. There's the creativity is just not there in terms of like movie writing or anything. It's all just, remaking old movies or old series and stuff like that. And can we get creative again? Let's get
It's
some
funny that you
original.
mentioned that because I find myself going back and watching old movies and not being at all interested in seeing a lot of the new ones that are coming out. I don't know if that's more of a product of my age now, where it's like comfort food to go back and watch some of the, big blockbuster films in our youth, like The Rock, like Independence Day, like Aliens, like I just watched
Hmm.
Judge Dredd or just Dredd or whatever. Like I see myself drawn when I go to like the streaming platforms or like Max or whatever. I want to watch those movies.
Cinemax.
No. What's that?
Cinemax.
Skinemax, okay. What do you think the mustache is for? But I don't know. I think a lot of that probably has to do though with the fact that they're just rehashing old movies. So why not just go back and watch the old movies that were good, instead of these retreads?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always an element of nostalgia. Like you're always going to love the old movies. But I would argue that a lot of it, if you're feeling that way, is more of a product of what you've been receiving or consuming as of late. Like I don't think the newer movies are as good as the older movies. And maybe that's the whole like, oh, my generation is so much better type of a thing. Maybe younger audiences are really enjoying the newer stuff and find it better than the older stuff. But I don't know, from my perspective, there's, the good movies that are released as of recent are really hit or miss compared to what they used to be. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, and I think a lot of them are probably franchise movies like Deadpool and Wolverine. I think that was a really good movie.
Yeah.
Alien Romulus, right? I mean, those are continuations of franchises as opposed to like standalone new. I heard the movie The Substance was really good, really interesting, kind of a new take on, trying to battle youth versus wisdom and age and things like that. But some of it's probably also a product of the time of year we're in, but I think a lot of the movies that have been critically acclaimed lately are horror movies.
Yeah.
Like The Heretic that just came out, it's getting good reviews. I have no interest in seeing it, but like The Terrifier,
Terrifier 3, let's go. I just binge watched 1 and 2 with some of our common friends over the weekend.
Okay, so let's talk about this, Boogie. Let's have a little therapy session. Sorry, Boogie. I said Bogey. What the fuck is wrong with you? Okay, that's my first question. Why would you want to watch people get slaughtered?
Hey, well, if you watch it with a group of guys that we can just sit there and laugh at it because it's so ridiculous. That's just, but I don't recommend anyone watching those movies, but I don't know, for some reason it draws me in. Well, it'd be the same reason why would anyone watch any of the Saw movies? I mean,
See, we talked about this. I don't think you're on the episode, but like,
oh, he was there. He was there.
Dude, those are so bad. Like, in the sense that I know they have a cult following, but like, I mean, my God, like, what kind of sick person enjoys watching that? There's more to those movies. I understand there's like some, like those people that are in those situations, aren't like the models of society. But then again, who is? Anyway,
but I was gonna say, like, well, if we're the ones watching, who's the sick mind making them?
Yeah.
Maybe you should ask them first before he asks me why I'm watching it.
Who was it? Was it Gandalf that said, "Who's more foolish, the fool or the fool that follows"?
Yeah, yeah,
So are you saying who's more sick-minded, the writer or the viewers that are watching it?
yeah, yeah.
I
I
don't
still
know.
think it's you, Bogey.
No, I mean a lot of people like that stuff. So
To each their own. That's
yeah,
all I gotta say. To each their own.
I mean, Bogey might not have been watching the late night Skinemax that you were watching, Dustin. So
Yeah, he was watching murder porn.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's Skinemax porn and then murder porn. So maybe I should just title this episode
Yeah,
Skin
his
Max.
his
porn.
channel was
Find out.
Skinned a Max.
Oh gosh. Um, Going back to our discussion about these movies, though, there are some comments that have been being made that make me very nervous, and I feel like we're talking about how you're already going to lose a certain amount of the Star Wars audience and wanting to see these. And we know what happened with the Acolyte when producers or writers start talking about certain things before the show is even released. These comments kind of give me that same vibe because, so according to the Hollywood Reporter, Star Wars movies race for Rey and the future of franchise on the big screen. The scavenger turned Jedi played by Daisy Ridley is in the last 3 episode movies is the key to the space opera's next turn. Key to Star Wars next turn? Or Lucasfilm is reportedly convinced that Rey is the future of the franchise. According to LRM, Rey is set to be character in demand for future Star Wars movies. They consider Rey is the most valuable cinematic asset, in some ways, maybe the only one for Star Wars, but unclear how. Like, you really gonna say Rey is the only valuable asset in Star Wars at the moment? Like, that just doesn't jive with me.
It's because they don't know what they have. They don't. I mean, these studio execs, they don't know like who the normal Star Wars fan is,
Yeah,
and they don't care, quite frankly.
no, they don't. They do, but they don't. They do in terms of they want to fill their pocketbooks. So
Yeah,
why
only in
would
that sense, right? They see us as like,
Cash cow.
yeah, but like they're talking about how Rey is the future and Rey is their pathway. Like, wouldn't you want to? Wouldn't you want the details behind the how before making such proclamation? Like, instead of being like, all right, she's going to be the future, but we don't know how to get her there. Wouldn't you rather have, okay, this is how we want to move forward, and then if Rey fits in, then maybe you can do it. I don't know. It seems like it's intentional, like there's a purpose behind it versus actually going for good stories.
Is there any chance that they're like trying to play the safe route?
What do you
You know,
mean?
like knowing, so we're gonna go announce that it's Rey and potentially it could be Daisy Ridley coming back. I know there's a lot of people, and I think she's a great actress.
Yeah, that's a good point to make. Like, this is nothing against her. She did a great job in her portrayal.
It's just the
The
script writing and the story was not what the fan like. I guess
Yeah,
maybe diehard Star Wars fans were expecting or wanted, but is it playing the safe route versus what they try to do with acolytes and how that what if you made a movie and it was acolytes? I feel like you would lose a lot of fan base
mm-hmm.
versus this is kind of a like a semi-safe route to say like okay it's gonna be maybe not the main character but it'll be Rey potentially portrayed by Daisy Ridley again and that's what I feel like Marvel's always been doing, or Marvel, Disney, Star Wars, and just Disney in general. They play that. They try when they get scared, and especially when it comes to movie productions. TV shows is one thing, but movie productions they try to like
Yeah,
always go to the safe route. Is what it is the feeling I'm getting.
I think there definitely is truth to that, especially when it's like a continuation of the saga that we've had already and already knowing like the reception behind that, because no matter what, you're still going to get people to see, okay, how does this continue on? What direction are they going to go? Whether I like it or not, I kind of feel like I have to see it versus if you go somewhere completely different, you might get people that just have no interest in seeing it whatsoever. So I do think there is truth to that for sure. But if I was Disney and you have something as expansive as Star Wars is, especially when in a recent show that you released, Ahsoka, you introduced this whole new, like, there's a whole nother galaxy out there. So you don't just have your Star Wars characters galaxy, you've got this whole new one, which means and opens up for all these different stories different directions you could go. And then to say Rey is the key to the future of Star Wars. It's like, really? There's a whole nother I would have more confidence if you said Ahsoka is the key to the future because she's in that other galaxy and it's a whole nother form of exploration you can have. Like, I feel like it's very much pigeonholing you if you say Rey. I don't
It's
know.
not like you don't have like an A-list actress in Rosario Dawson playing Ahsoka already lined up, ready to make a movie. Like
Right.
you got Pedro Pascal doing Mando and his Mando movie, so why not something with Ahsoka? No,
Yeah.
I totally agree.
And that's to also represent, like, it's not because it's Rey or it's a female character that we're like, oh, why are they going to go this way? If they said Ahsoka, I would have a completely different view on it. But you're saying Rey, and it makes it. I don't know. I don't feel the same way as Star Wars or Lucasfilm does if they're saying these things. Anything further on that?
They're playing it safe.
Plain and simple.
Oh God, absolutely. I mean, that's a great point by Bogey. They probably think, oh, Rey's a recognizable name, and it's in a timeline that they want to continue to develop because, they developed it themselves. I mean, really, the original trilogy, or sorry, the sequel trilogy is the first set of movies that Disney put out, right? That were pretty much new content in the universe. So I'm sure they want to continue to flesh that out. But the problem is it wasn't very good. It wasn't well received. So, they're kind of picking the wrong horse in my opinion. And again, point out it's not because of Daisy Ridley or her acting. It's just safe. It's too safe, and they should get away from it and start to explore different things in the Star Wars universe. I think that would bring fans back in.
Yeah.
If they do it right, we've seen them do it wrong and it go very poorly, but they need to hire somebody who really truly is a big, big fan of the Star Wars universe, and not just, the original movies. I'm talking about like
everything,
like us, like the Old Republic, the expanded universe, the High Republic stuff that they've been, that's a sanctioned thing from Disney. And then you need to fucking leave them alone. Like, stop putting it's like in the Marvel, it's in like Deadpool and Wolverine, where the lady's like sticking her fingers in like people. I don't know if you've seen the movie. That's what Disney does to their directors when it comes to Star Wars. They're like sticking their fingers in them and then like making them do what they want them to do. And that's not
master of puppets.
Pretty much. This is just not what should be happening. You say, hey, they should find a director and say, we have the confidence in you based on your resume and everything to do what you need to do to make this work. Right. But they're micromanaging the absolute shit out of them. I mean, that's why you see so many of these projects have so much turnover. And that's, I think I'm not an insider, an expert, right? But that is the prevailing theme within these exits, is that Disney meddled way, way, way too much. And these people had no creative freedom and it put out a shit product.
And that's a good point, Justin, because you see that a lot now in Hollywood with like movies. They'll make a first one and then they make a second one. You're like, what the? And then make a third one. You're like, no, what? Like it doesn't cohere very well versus like, something like you brought up, the Deadpool trilogy. Ryan Reynolds was, you could tell he was behind the whole, you know, and granted you could say which one's better and better, but in my opinion, all three are pretty great watches.
Yep.
And even the third one, just because he was finally able to get Hugh Jackman to, come out of retirement of the Wolverine clause and play Wolverine again. Nowadays, it's just like you said, there's the higher ups just have too much influence and like, no, we're not doing it that way anymore. But then let's say the second one's like, let's say, for example, the new trilogy we're talking about, the first one was good, received well, even though people could have their thoughts about like, oh, it's just New Hope, kind of just remastered in a different way. But you get to the second one and you go, what the hell is this? And that's when I think Mudge and I talked in the past, like they're hitting the panic button, and then J.J. Abrams has to come in and play cleanup, and so then it gets ugly. Like that's what, if they're gonna do anything for this new trilogy with Ray, find a director and have the entire full three film just ready to go. Kind of similar to Mudge, what you're talking about, the one person that came up with the Obi-Wan, where they're
Yeah.
gonna make like two or three movies.
Yep.
And you said you would have rather seen that versus what we got from the TV series.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just like bring your concept and bring it from like a, whether script or storyboard of like, here we go. This is what we're doing from here to end. What can we do with this? Can we make a TV series out of this, or do we make three movies out of this? And then stick to it.
Yep. Well, I think the key to the example you're bringing up with the Obi-Wan Kenobi trilogy, to your point, he was a fan. He was a fan of Star Wars first. He was a film writer who fell in love with film writing as a result of watching Star Wars. So, I mean, it's
Yeah.
passion that will produce that good content. And when you have Disney just intentionally seeking writers that have no background of Star Wars in an effort to bring in a new, like, new perspective of what Star Wars is, it's kind of doomed to fail. More so doomed to fail with the fanship you currently have. It can be successful with new fans, but those new fans aren't going to be as dedicated and loyal to the franchise compared to the ones that have been around since the 1977. So it's really, you need to be a fan, so you bring that passion into your writing. I wholeheartedly agree with that. So, and there's writers out there that fit that mold. But will Disney go that direction? We'll have to wait and see. But I think to both of your earlier points, both of your guys's, I feel like Disney is kind of like Rome in terms of, you want to continue to expand that viewership. The more people we bring in, the more money we bring. And I think that's a flawed concept. I think it's going back to what I was just saying. It's new money you might be bringing in, but you're probably not going to be bringing in as much compared to adhering. I shouldn't say adhere, but if you're hitting the mark with your loyal fans. So
Just make good films. That's kind of really all we ask, I think.
yeah. Oh, good films that make sense and align with the Star Wars universe that we know, because you can't just make a good film that totally erases stuff that we've already, invested into.
Well, you
It's
can't.
gotta,
You just say, "Oops, that's actually a different timeline."
yeah, it's got to be intentional. It's got to fit the mold.
Well, Marvel.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's the multiverse.
Yeah. So it's got to align. It has to align. But yeah, just make good stories and people will love it. They will. All right. Anything further on these Ray movies or next topic? So the next thing I have is, you've probably also heard that Andor season 2, the premiere has been announced, so it will be April 2025. And I can tell you what, it can't come soon enough. I am so
Tell
excited
you what.
for season 2. Season 1 has been probably my favorite Disney content that's been released or created because it was so good.
Yeah, I think
Um,
almost every episode was. I don't know if you can give it a lower than a 8.5 out of 10.
I wouldn't.
I think every episode was that was good stuff.
I mean, everything, the writing, the acting, the storyline, uh, the music, everything was just great in that. It,
And
So
my,
you're like, why can't you do
and
like
the
a
brilliance of
movie?
them tying it
yeah,
into, the original films,
yeah,
right? And the way they did that, and like I know Mudge, even when we were doing live podcasts about it, I bet they're building stuff for the Death Star, and it's gonna, and it's like, holy shit, you're right, and this is great. They did
yeah.
it in a really believable way, and you bought into it, and so yeah, I mean, Andor season 2 definitely got to be something that people are looking forward to.
Yeah,
I think people are looking forward to, and I think there's some buzz around Skeleton Crew. And I believe that it's because people, they kind of know what it's going to bring to the table, and it's not going to be too much,
I
right?
yeah, I think our level of expectation has been set. We know what it's supposed to be. It's not going to be like a Rogue One. It's not going to be like the original
Well, it's
trilogy.
not going to try to revolutionize Star Wars, right?
Right.
It's the meat and potatoes, you know, kind of it's Goonies set in the Star Wars universe, right? I mean, we've heard that a million times, but that's what it is. That's what they've led us to believe it is. I think a lot of fans are like, hell yeah.
Yeah. And I know, Bogey, we've kind of briefly talked about this a little bit. The great part of having multiple people on this platform is that we get different points of view. And I know, Bogey, you kind of felt a little differently, at least from seeing the trailers. Can you expand upon your thoughts on that?
Yeah,
And
when I
why
saw
they're
the
wrong.
trailer, oh, what are you gonna say, Dustin?
And why they're wrong.
I
Um,
love how you say that too. You're like legs are crossed and you're
Mm-hmm.
just like I'm waiting to say you're wrong. Sorry, go ahead, Bogey.
but yeah, no, yeah, you're like Dustin, you look like have you guys seen Mad Men?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He's like Don Draper over here
Yeah.
with his arm up and his arms crossed. Like, tell me again, because you're
Dude,
gonna be
that's the
wrong
best
anyways.
compliment I think I've ever fucking got.
More
By
than
the way,
Tom
St.
Selleck.
Louis' own John Hamm.
More than Tom Selleck compliment.
Oh no, God, I'd rather be John Hamm than Tom Selleck.
I know I'm giving you a hard time.
And that's mostly because the generation we're in.
Yeah, that's
Tom
fair.
Selleck was a sex symbol back in the 80s, right? Probably even before that.
Yeah, with what was it showed? Magnum PI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyways, yeah, with the Skeleton Crew, I don't I the trailer gives me hope that it might be good, but I just feel like I hope it doesn't like you don't see very many of these 'cause we were talking about like I think throughout our group text and whatnot was comparison to the Goonies. To me, like I look at it as like, oh, it could be kind of like a Stand By Me. That's one of my favorite kind of like those kid
Yeah.
tales.
Yeah.
Um I don't out of nowhere, but I wish it was just maintaining the kid vibe. Now, granted, this guy is a great actor, but when the trailer revealed Jude Law showing up and all of a sudden like kind of being like a parent to these kids, and I was like, no, let I don't. So that's why it gives me a little kind of like, does Jude Law steal steal the
Sure.
steal the show too much? Because of course you're probably paying him a ton, so of course he's gonna have a lot of screen time. Whereas like
Yeah.
let's just watch this kid crew figure it out. That's why I'm a little skeptic. That's why. Um,
So my counter to that is like if you look at Stranger Things, right?
Yeah,
I think Jude Law is like, Hopper's character.
that's
So
a
you
good
always
point.
kind of
That's a
need
good.
some sort of like adult in the plot to keep things centered. Is my opinion, right? And I think Stranger Things does that very, very well.
So
Yeah,
if they can hit that like they did with the Hopper's character with like whoever Jude Law's character's name is, then yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not going to say I'm not going to watch it. I'm definitely going to give it a try just like I did Acolytes. And we'll give it like an episode and a half and I'll be like, "Nope, I'm out." No, I'm kidding. Um no, it looks like it's something I will try to go through the entire versus Acolytes. I was checked out pretty
pretty early
quickly.
on.
See, and that's why, I mean,
Mm,
you could be wrong, but I have a much better feeling about Skeleton Crew than I ever did about Acolyte. So at least I'm more hopeful and more excited that the show's coming out. When Acolyte came out, you kind of had this feeling like you're going to hate watch it, and it was going to be good for discussion, but it wasn't going to be good for an
entertainment.
Star Wars show.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
if you were a content creator, uh, I mean, Acolyte was a fucking gold mine. So
it kind of
all,
was, unfortunately.
including ourselves, like it just you're like, holy shit, this is like drinking from a fountain as a kid where it wasn't water, it was all freaking fruit punch,
Yeah,
like Mountain Dew. This is
yeah.
great.
Code Red, man. Mix the
Yeah.
two.
Game fuel.
Yeah.
I just compared
Surge.
Acolyte to a drinking fountain, or as they like to say in Wisconsin,
The
bubblers.
bubblers. Hey, it's where I mean I'm on the team drinking fountain, but Bubbler
Oh,
was the initial brand that was released, so that's why it's like Kleenex type of a thing. Um,
I just thought people in Wisconsin were psychotic.
well, there are those people because a lot of murderers, I guess, come from Wisconsin. So,
Hmm.
um, but as it relates
Sometimes
to
cheese curds.
yeah, the cheese curds make it up. Um, based on the trailers, I do kind of feel more aligned with what Dustin was saying, but I think um I will give to Bogey, like Dustin, you were making the point, like Stranger Things made it work with that. But I would also say that Stranger Things is a different type of show versus what the Star Wars was, and different from like what Goonies was. Like there's a clear difference.
I don't know. I'm saying the show is
Stranger Things is
really similar.
darker and more of a scary thing, more adult kind of content versus the Goonies. Goonies is more of a kids oriented film that seemed to be a little more adolescent. And I think the intention of this show, I could be wrong, but is more along that Goonies kind of thing. So Jude Law could potentially steal the show, but he's a great actor. So I also have just full confidence in what he's going to bring to it. So I feel like, I mean, I'm more excited for this than I ever was for Acolyte and probably some of the other shows, in my opinion. But
But not compared to Andor.
well, I'm more excited for Goonies than I was originally for Andor. But then after watching Andor, I'm like, this is this is top level Star Wars shit. Like this is what we
Like,
need
but
more
I
of.
yeah, I do like the element again, what we talked about, getting outside and it's a story. So that does get me excited. It's just when I saw the trailer, like I said, when I saw Jude Law show up and I was
Yeah.
like, can we just maintain just with the kids, just
Yeah.
finding
No,
their way
that's
back,
fair.
finding their way back home? Why did we have to bring, but maybe Jude Law will bring kind of like what I don't know. I think at moments Hopper brought in Stranger Things this like kid. I'm an adult, but I'm gonna level down to you guys and be a kid too and be goofy and.
Yeah.
it- but I love that's the whole idea of Star Wars though is like the expanding out and traveling around and expanding the whole Star Wars lore is I think could be potentially very positive for this show.
I mean, when I saw suburban neighborhoods with roads in a Star Wars thing with like cars and stuff, like I'm like, I haven't seen this before. I'm all in. Like this is pretty
Oh yeah.
awesome. You're in
Well,
like the day-to-day
yeah.
life of like your average Joe or Jane in Star Wars. I'm like, yeah, sign me up for this. But maybe like with the whole Jude Law thing, I mean, what was it, Carrie Ann Moss with the Acolyte and how much she was used in the publicity and trailers of the show and was, come to find
Barely
out
in
was
it.
barely
Died
in
in
it.
the first 5 minutes.
Yeah. So maybe it's more of a,
Maybe
dangle
Jude
a carrot.
Law is the dead body, like in Stand By Me, that they have to go, poke with a
And
stick.
go find. That's their imaginary friend. If that's the case, that would be awesome. But no, I'm
Or
sure.
maybe he's the one that introduces them or shows them the ship that they discover. And then they're on this ship and they get blasted off into. I don't think that's the case because I think in the descriptions they've talked about how Jude Law character kind of chauffeurs them along the way. So I do believe he's going to be more of a prominent role than Trinity from Matrix was in The Acolyte. So
No, I mean if they play it right, just like Jude, the Hopper character, and
yeah,
kind of like always playing this like parent that's annoyed by his like 11 doing things and whatnot. Like if Jude Law kind of plays this like chauffeur parent, and then like, okay, everyone get on board, and like, where's Jimmy? And then he's like, what? I don't know. And then you see him like outside the ship, like running away, like chasing a droid or something. Like if plays a little fun like that, I mean, that'd be fun when he's like, ah, damn it, like, and then has to get out of the ship and go chase him down. Like if it's something like fun like that
I
kind
mean,
of thing.
yeah,
trailers definitely give that vibe off.
that's yeah, I agree.
Then I'm like, if that's kind of the case, like then it'd probably be one of the best probably shows they've come out with.
When Bogey, it'll be your first time doing episode reviews with us. So I'm sure
Yeah,
you're
I'm
pretty excited
excited.
about that element of it. So
I'm super excited.
and we were talking about Skeleton Crew and we were talking about Andor. I can kind of connect the two on a recent announcement for that show. So, and when I say Andor, it's more of a connection with Rogue One, but we know Andor connects to Rogue One. So, according to Star Wars Newsnet, Mick Giacchino is tapped to score Skeleton Crew, and he is the son of the person who did the composition music for Rogue One. So,
Ooh,
I
okay.
think so. There'll probably be some similarities in the soundtrack for Rogue One for this show, but they did say that his son is putting his own little touch to it as well. So I thought that was pretty fascinating. So I'm glad we talked about those two because it's kind of connecting the dots on those two.
Yeah, no, that spikes up the meter. So maybe I'm a little more excited now after we talked as a group.
Now, don't just adhere to what we were saying. Hold true to your statement. No, I'm just kidding. And just going back to Andor really quick as well. So we know that this season will take place over the course of 4 years. So from the end of Andor season one all the way up to the beginning of Rogue One. And every 3 episodes, a year passes in Cassian's life. So if you remember from season one, they had like these 3 episode arcs as they released. Like each 3 episodes were kind of their own story, and then they moved to the next one, the next. So they're doing the same thing kind of in this season, but it's supposed to encompass a year or probably the main points of that year in case Cassian's life. So, and I can't wait to see the trailer. And I know, Bogey, you had, before we started recording, you were kind of talking about something that you saw, and I haven't seen this yet. I think, Dustin, you might have seen it too, but I'll let you talk through that a little bit.
Yeah, it was just a quick snippet because it was kind of a tease or advertisement for buying Disney Hulu Plus, and it was showing snippets of all the shows. Like it showed the bear, it showed other content, and then it showed Andor. And I was like, whoa, that's new. And then I quickly had a YouTube to see what has this been broken down. It was like again, it was like really quick clips.
Okay.
And so what you saw was a lot of Coruscant.
Mm.
So at some point there will be a Coruscant, but isn't that's already where what's his the Scars is it Bill Scars?
Yeah. Skarsgård.
The
What's his
guy,
first name?
he's got his sons, but it's not Bill, but you know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about. The
Yep.
Scars, dad. I'll call him Dad Skarsgård.
Dad
Uh,
Skarsgård.
that is one of the main protagonists in the show. I think he's got that shop that's on Coruscant, right?
Yeah.
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 Well, and
Okay.
Mon Mothma's on Coruscant too,
Yep.
and I know that's been kind of an important storyline in the show as well. So
So you see both in different segments on Coruscant. Um, you see Andor. Looks like I don't know where he's at, but it looks like he escapes where it's like looks like the stormtroopers have like probably I don't know again where he is at, but it looked like they all like funneled against like maybe people that are against them into like this
okay.
like dome, and all of a sudden it turns into like a again Star Wars. That's what I want. And then all of a sudden it just turns into like hellfire for like a quick second, then it clips over to another scene. Um, and then you finally see it, which I'm so excited for. He's probably one of my other favorite characters. You see K2SO. You could tell it's him because he's got the yellow stripes.
Oh, sure. Okay.
He's one of the iconic, like if you see it, like you could tell, like, oh, that's why would you show that in a trailer or like
Yeah.
in the snippet clips that I saw? And it looks like he's in Coruscant walking towards like the camera, but you don't know what. And all of a sudden, and then it cuts out.
Okay.
Um, so that's all I've seen, and it's not, again, nothing really spoiler, but other than it looks like there's gonna be a lot of action on Coruscant, and then wherever uh Andor am I saying his name right? What's his full name again?
Cassian
Cassian.
Andor. Yep.
Cassian. Wherever I'm guessing where he ends up after he gets off that prison. I can't remember where we left off if he
Well, he first went back to his home world because he
okay.
was going to see his mom, but found out his mom passed away. And then that's when that kind of like mini rebellion riot happened in the streets. And then, if you remember, at the end of that episode, Cassian Andor gets some of those people onto a ship and tells them to leave because he's going to stay back. And he ends up seeking out Daddy Skarsgård, as we were calling him, and
Oh,
he gets onto his ship when he leaves, and he confronts him and saying like, either kill me or take me in. And that's kind of where season one ended. So he's off in space flying with Skarsgård. I'm trying to remember what the character's name actually is. Um, while the other portion of the crew is flying off somewhere else, and I'm sure they'll meet up at some point. So
but it like gave me goosebumps in the one clip though was the, Daddy Skarsgård. You could hear his voice, but you see uh Andor doing whatever in the quick clips. He says, you're being a smuggler, and then he said, You're trying to treat me like a soldier." He goes, "No, I want you to be a leader."
mm,
And it just gave me goosebumps leading up to like Rogue One, how he became, a leader.
leader, that's
So
pretty
that's
cool.
so like if you see it, get a chance to see it, like just that hearing him say that to Andor was just like, whoa, that's because that's kind
Powerful.
of pretty much what he was. He was a smuggler, and then he's like, "Well, you're treating me like a soldier." Like, no, I want you to be a leader.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And Skarsgård, he's such a great actor that
Oh
the
God, yeah.
delivery of that. I mean, he had some great lines in season one that are some of the most memorable Star Wars content, in my opinion. Like the one, well, what did you give up? And he goes off on that whole tangent. And he's like, everything. Like
Yeah.
that was freaking badass.
Yeah.
Um,
Even you saying that gives me chills. Like,
yeah.
whoa. I
It's
love
just the delivery and the
the
power
delivery
that
of quotes. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, so good. And of course, what's the guy's name? He played Smeagol on Lord of the Rings and Snoke. What's his name?
He
Andy
always,
Circus. Andy
yeah,
Circus.
Andy Serkis. Yeah.
He did also have amazing, powerful lines in season one. But yeah, so you saying that, because one of the things I have written down is I saw a bunch of like still shots that I hadn't seen before. And I was like, oh, these are pretty cool. And a lot of them were fitting what you were describing. So they must have pulled those screenshots from that kind of trailer that got released. So, and I think one of them, there was like a TIE interceptor and Cassian was like inside the TIE
Oh,
interceptor and you
yeah.
see all the red lights behind him and everything. So he must be like piloting a TIE interceptor in his like escape route of it. So
Yep. That
Pretty
was another
cool.
thing. I totally forgot. Yep. You see like a whole blast hole, and he's like because he shot it through, and it looks like he's getting it and like gonna like zoom out wherever he's at. So I mean, there's a lot of snippets that you can speculate what the hell is going on, but but the I can't wait till the full actual trailer. Like I said, it kind of jumped
Yeah.
around between different like shows at Disney and Hulu, or all of a sudden you see Andor, then it jumps somewhere else, then it jumps to another show, then it goes back to Andor. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, enough, just put it together.
And we were kind of talking about this before jumping on, like a trailer when it actually get released. I bet you'll get a teaser trailer leading up to the holidays, and then you'll get the first like official trailer probably at the Super Bowl, like you said, Bogey. I think that's probably on par with the timing, but I would assume we'll get something before the holiday or during the holidays. So at least
Oh
some,
yeah.
at
But the
least
fact
some
that it
kind of
doesn't come
teaser.
out, what was it? What did I say? Was it or that
April
you said?
2025.
Yep, April. Yeah.
So that's usually about the timing about those things. And then you get the second official trailer probably a month or two out from the actual release. So
hmm
um yeah, anything else on Andor or Skeleton Crew?
All I got is about my bedtime.
Bedtime for Mr. DeFranco over here.
Mr. Don Draper over there.
Mr. Boo Crew. But yeah, so I will wrap it up for today. Looking forward to Skeleton Crew coming out and being able to get back to our weekly routine of recapping episodes or reviewing episodes. It's a lot of fun. So again, I'm excited to get you in on that for the first time, Bogey. And if you recall, it'll be 2 episodes that get released for the first one. Usually what we do is we'll watch it same day. Once Disney used to have this, like, what do they call it, Dustin?
Group
The
watch.
group watch. They don't have that anymore, which is stupid because I really enjoy doing that. So we kind of have to watch it on our own for sure. And then we'll talk about it. And we usually try to do that same day so that it stays pretty fresh. So
Oh, that's kind of sucks. Like in the past where you could like all be synced up and just watch it.
yeah.
Like we're not like you're not a minute ahead, I'm not a minute behind. We're just in sync.
Yep, it syncs all the TVs, so you're watching it at the same time, so you can text back and forth like as you're watching it.
And they took that away.
They took that away.
Ugh. We're in a no
Oh,
fun zone world right now.
I just saw in our chat. So Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast says you can do it on Discord. So maybe we'll look into that.
Maybe
Has
gotta
anyone
get a
used?
whole new program involved.
Hey, but it's at least an option. It's at least an option.
Dude, Discord.
Dustin, you're like, oh God.
I
Yeah.
use Discord. I used to, to play.
So you don't have to get it new. You already have it.
Well, you still have to get the program involved. I don't think it's very user friendly at all.
No,
But
I've never
I'm an
used
old
it, so I
man
have no
yelling
idea.
at a cloud.
I have heard it's not, yeah, it's one of the only ways, but it's not user friendly. I've heard that. Yeah.
Back in my day, we used Ventrilo.
I'm sorry. I love that visual that you just gave me there, Dustin. You yelling at a cloud.
Oh yeah.
I can picture that. He says he also hates Discord, so you're not alone in that, Dustin. But it's an option. So
I mean, we're just saying it was so easy, right? You got everyone synced up, and you
it
literally
was.
play, and then you're off to the races, texting each other like, "Oh my God, did you see that?" Or and what I liked about it was, like Mudge is so good at picking up like little things during a show, like an episode, that he would text on in real time, and then you could pick up on them, and you would never probably have done that otherwise. So like it was really good for things like that. I don't know why they got rid of it. It seems kind of silly. Maybe
I bet it's money.
maybe the technology costs too much money, but it was pretty cool.
I bet it'll be in that scene, probably, I'm sure. Mudge, that scene in again, we don't know his name, or we can't think of his name, but Daddy Skarsgård in
Daddy
his shop.
Skarsgård.
In his shop.
Oh yeah.
Was that Plo Koon's mask? Oh,
Oh
is
yeah.
that like? Oh, did you see that in the background?
That was
were
brilliant
the-
on their part too.
We were all over that. Anytime that shop came up, it's like, okay, where are we looking?
That's Star Killer's armor.
Yeah. Hey, you had that. You had a Gungan shield in there. You had Padme's like
Yeah.
headdress thing. Oh, it was
I bet.
like,
Oh God, we would have been nerding out.
oh yeah.
If I was part of that with you guys. Like,
Oh, and Zach was more frequent during that time, and he was catching all that stuff too in that shop. So, oh,
but
I
versus now, if you did Discord, all of a sudden be like texting you and be like, ah, damn it, I gotta rewind. Let me see. I missed it.
yeah, it's really unfortunate that guy. Maybe they'll bring something back like that for it, but probably not in time for the show. I know we got good use out of it, so it really is unfortunate. Oh, Sankara stones from Indy was in there. That's right. Those the from the Indiana Jones, those stones that uh was it the Temple of Doom? Is that what the movie those stones were from?
Indiana Jones is not my specialty.
Neither is mine, but I'm trying to think it from what
They're
I've.
like
Hopefully, it's not from the Crystal Skull.
they look like huge brown like medicine pills that you take down, but they're stones.
Enemas? I think you're thinking of enemas.
I'm definitely not thinking of enemas.
You're thinking very fondly on enemas. And I think it's kind of weird, Mudge.
But I just remember those stones would heat up, and I think there's a scene when they're going across the bridge and all the alligators are at the bottom where they start heating up and the bag like disintegrates underneath and the stones like start falling down and he catches like one of them. I don't know.
Pretty sure you're right. It's got to be Temple of Doom.
Yeah, I think it's Temple of Doom. Scarif says yes, so I'm gonna think he's saying yes to it being Temple of Doom. So, all right. Anyways, I know I said I'd wrap this up earlier, but now I'll get to that point. So, just again, I'll throw out our social media handles. You can find us on Twitter at DetBlockAA23pod, on Instagram at detention underblock or underscore block underscore AA underscore 23. Then our Facebook group and YouTube channel, Detention Block AA23, a Star Wars podcast. And then you can find us on TikTok at DetBlock AA23. Hit that subscribe button for us. Like, follow, download, rate, review, all of it, any of it. We greatly appreciate any little thing that you can do. Definitely helps us get our name out there amongst all the other Star Wars channels and podcasts. So
it is a bummer that we have to be like shills to talk about that, but it just gets us on the algorithm.
Yep, it really does. And it's amazing how much TikTok helps. Believe it or not, it's amazing. You look at the metrics and it's like, okay, you can specifically find when we started TikTok and everything went.
Yeah,
so,
Reels is probably another one too, right? Which is just like a ripoff.
Yeah. Yep. YouTube Reels. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, looking forward to the content that's coming up. There's going to be a lot happening here pretty quick. I know we've kind of been going through a slow time, but that's going to change really quickly, and it always does around this time.
I think we needed a slow time after that fucking train wreck that was Acolyte.
We need some good stuff coming,
we just got off a really big bender, and we needed some recovery.
Hey, and why? I mean, we have one thing that's like potentially really good. We don't know. We're excited, and then we also have something that we know is going to be really good. The first one being Skeleton Crew, the second one being Andor. So I don't think we're going to be disappointed. And Scarif, thank you for hitting that subscribe button. Appreciate it. Thank you for fixing that. Yeah. So with that, any final thoughts, gentlemen? Oh, Bogey. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. What did you forget to do?
I can save it till next week.
Okay, we'll save it till next week.
We'll save it till next week.
Oh, that's called a cliffhanger in the biz?
Yeah, cool. We're not going to say what it was, but we had something we intended to bring, but we'll wait till next time. So,
because it's somebody's bedtime. Oh my!
Hey,
Don Draper.
hey, I can hop off and you guys can
No, it just adds more content for next.
I kind of like the cliffhanger element to this right now. This is pretty good.
Because I wanted to get your take, Dustin, and hopefully if you can join next week, I want to get your take on just the topic I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, that should be. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. All right. Well, with that, we'll talk to everyone next week. Looking forward to it. Have a great rest of your day, rest of your week. And as always, may the force be with you.
You like Don Draper smoking a cig.
Having a heater.
I'm still going with Tom Selleck, but okay, we'll do that. All right.